Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, now that the sequestration has taken place that we were told a year and a half ago would not, the President said during the debates last fall would not, but they've taken place as the President traveled around the country demonizing those of us back here that were hoping for a better way to cut, hoping that something could be reached in the way of an agreement that would have given more flexibility, but that didn't happen. People too busy going off doing other things to be here in Washington with us to work out some kind of agreement. One bit of good news, though, we had heard from the Secretary of Homeland Security that the lines would be long in the airport, there would be delays, there would be all kinds of problems. Initially, it was announced that FAA officials would be pulled from between 150 and 200 airports. They were going to make America feel as much pain as possible. But with all the tough news for travelers, we can all be comforted. This is dated March 5th. Story by Elizabeth Harrington. The TSA was able to seal a $50 million sequester eve deal to buy new uniforms. So the lines will be longer. Traveling, we're told by Homeland Security, they're going to make America feel pain because we managed to cut less than 2% of government spending when it's increased over 20% over the last 4 years, when every American who works, pays taxes, had their taxes go up 2% on January 1st. This was merely taxes going up 2%, giving basically a tax on government for 2%. Same one America suffered, same amount basically. And yet we have officials in this administration who say, oh no, we can't stand a 2% cut. Heck, the House itself, our budgets have been cut 11.5% over the last 2 years. We did it. And you got TSA, you got FAA, you've got Homeland Security, you've got people being released from custody that will put American citizens in jeopardy, all to make the point we can't live with a 2% cut like every hard-working American taxpayer has. So, at least we know that TSA will have new uniforms while the lines are getting longer. It also is worth noting a story here by Terrence Jeffrey, March 4th of this year, that President Obama borrowed nearly 6 times as much in February as the sequester cuts all year. And I recall in 2006, the last year Republicans were in the majority, for Speaker Pelosi took the gavel. Democrats on this side of the aisle appropriately beat up Republicans because we had a budget, we had an appropriations that year that spent $160 billion more than we brought in. And we should have gotten it balanced, so they were right. I would never have dreamed that within a few years, that with a Democrat in the White House and with a Democratic majority in the House, Democratic majority in the Senate, that they wouldn't spend $160 billion more than we took in. They'd spend $1.6 trillion more than we took in. And here, with all the gloom and doom and claims about how bad it's going to be, oh, it's going to be horrible, we find out the President borrowed $253.5 billion in 1 month, the shortest month of the year in February, 6 times more than the sequester was, with all the complaints. Interesting story here in townhall.com by Heather Ginsburg. President Obama's golf trip could have saved 341 furloughed jobs. And she goes on to outline the dollars it cost for the last golf outing. That's pretty tragic. I think we have one of the most gracious and graceful first ladies that we've ever had. She made a wonderful quote previously. She said, quote, "This is really what the White House is all about. It's the people's house. It's a place that is steeped in history, but it's also a place where everyone should feel welcome. And that's why my husband and I have made it our mission to open up the house to as many people as we can." That was our First Lady. A wonderful, wonderful position to take. So I'm sure she was not consulted today when the White House, in its frustration that all of us in Congress, heck, the cut we're having in Congress is going to put us around 20% cut of our budget in the House. Senate hadn't cut themselves 11.5% like we have. But we will have cut our own budget in the House of Representatives, every office, at least 20% in 3 years' time. But the President, even though his budget, his government has grown about 20% in 4 years, could not live with just pulling back 2% of that 20% increase. So today, as the story indicates from today, this is from the Washington Examiner. Never say the White House isn't affected by sequestration. The visitor's office just notified Congress that tours of the White House are canceled until further notice, quote, "Due to staffing reductions resulting from sequestration, we regret to inform you that the White House tour will be canceled effective Saturday, March 9th, 2013, until further notice," unquote. The White House email the legislative offices explains, "Unfortunately," this is a quote, "unfortunately, we will not be able to reschedule affected tours. We very much regret having to take this particular action, particularly during the popular spring touring season," unquote. Well, knowing that, as the story reports here, we could add 341 federal employees could have kept their jobs and not been furloughed if the President had not taken his last golf outing. It seemed to me that since there's so many people coming to Washington, and it appears to me as many Democrats as Republicans, possibly more, and they have counted on the quote from the First Lady that they're so looking forward to touring the White House. I filed an amendment with the Rules Committee this afternoon so that we can work together. The amendment to the continuing resolution of funds, and I'm hoping and begging, pleading that the Rules Committee will make this amendment in order. It's amendment to House Resolution 933, offered by Mr. Gohmert of Texas. At the end of Division 7, before the short title, insert the following: "None of the funds made available by a division of this Act may be used to transport the President to or from a golf course until public tours of the White House resume." That way we will both work together so the President will not be able to take a golf outing that causes 341 more federal officials to be furloughed and lose their job at least temporarily, and then perhaps avoiding furloughing all these federal employees. We'll be able to get the Democrats and Republicans across America, people that don't even have a party because they're just Americans, they'll be able to get their tour of the White House, and all it'll cost is 1 or 2 golf trips less. With that, I yield back.